Alright guys, so the top 300 winners of the Pokémon Illustration Contest 2022 have finally been announced. So out of these, they're going to be picking the top 100 first, and those are going to be coming out on the 12th of May, as I'm sure you probably know. And the final picks are going to be revealed on June 11. And with that said, let's take a look at some of these illustrations. And I might break this up into multiple videos, but still I'm going to be covering all of them, so get ready. Alright, so the first one that we've got here is this one by Six Love. The first thing that stands out to me about this one is the contrast between Arcanine's orange fur and the blue setting behind him. There's actually a lot of good contrast in this illustration. So you've got Arcanine's fire typing and he's sitting in the rain. You can see that he's sitting in the plains and then there's mountains in the background. So that's like a contrast between actual settings. And I like the way that Arcanine's stripes kind of remind you of the lightning too in a way. You can see the dimension of the mountains and the trees in the background just extending into the fog, and that's just really cool. And they also did a really impressive job making Arcanine look like he's wet from the rain, like there's a lot of glistening on him. This next one's from Addie Estrella. I really like seeing all the Pokemon in the background. I can see a Slugma on the cliff, and then there's also some Torkoal up near the top. And I really like the smooth colors that they used. This actually reminds me of a lot of Akuragawa's cards too, so they did a really excellent job. It looks very professional. Here's a really great one from AJ Cho. I like how you can really see the texture of Arcanine's fur. And that's a really cool stance that Arcanine is doing too. I like the way that you can see the leaves in the background flying in front of Arcanine and landing into the pond that he's standing in front of, and I like seeing his reflection too. That's done really well. And another thing I noticed is how they made Arcanine clear while the background's slightly out of focus, and that makes it look like it was taken with a camera. This one from Ameru has a very unique style that I like. I really like how they drew all the Pidgey and the Wooloo and Dubwool in the background. And they give Arcanine the illusion of flying in the sky because of all the Pidgey around, but he's actually still running on the ground. And probably my favorite thing about this illustration is the sky, how it like has those really cool swirls in it. That looks amazing. And man, this one from April Borschelt looks wonderful. I love how you can tell that Arcanine's facing the sunset without having to actually see the sunset. And the detail on Arcanine's fur looks really great too. And I also like the way that they made the storm clouds get darker towards the bottom of the clouds. That's really realistic. And you can tell that's really windy too, and like even the direction that the wind's blowing in. This one by Ava Cuddle is adorable. I love how Arcanine's just prancing about in a meadow on a sunny day and he's just so happy looking. And the way that they made the grass in the front darker and blurry, again, gives it that really good camera focus effect. And this illustration just really reminds me of Pokemon Snap because of that. Wow, this one by Expensive made me realize that Arcanine can blow fire through his nose. But yeah, the reason why he's doing that is because he's snoring, and I like how they actually use that fire, that little flicker of a flame, to illuminate things, because otherwise the setting would be really dark. And so I can tell that they drew Arcanine sleeping like between a pine tree and a frozen lake. And he's snuggling up with some other Pokemon too. You've got two Cleffa and a Vulpix, and then there's a Snom too in the snow. Man, the lighting effects and the reflections are so good in this one. Yeah, so as soon as I saw this one by Luke Hose, I was like, whoa, that's so cool. I love the combination of orange and dark gray. And those stars, I would have never thought to make the stars look like that. It's showing Arcanine sleeping throughout the night, and they took a long exposure photo of the whole night while he's sleeping. And they managed to make Arcanine's fur look like velvet. That was so soft looking. This one by Maribel Montalvo shows Arcanine as a domestic pet. I like how the living room that Arcanine's sleeping in looks so warm compared to outside where you can see the snow on the pine trees. And you've got the fireplace going and Arcanine's just really content looking. I really love those plushies that they made too, especially the Firestone plushie. That is really cute. Now I wish that I had a Firestone plushie. I really just love the amount of different contrasts in this image. You know, because it's warm inside and it's cold outside, but it's also bright in the living room while it's dark outside. And then you can see all the summer vegetation inside as houseplants. And I also like the amount of detail that they put on the floorboards. That's really great looking. Next up, we've got this one by Mori. It looks so spooky with the grayscale bamboo shoots, and then you've got the lavender colored sky in the background, and then all the fog streaks too. It's just so spooky. But Arcanine, he's so tough and strong that he's not scared of anything, he's just relaxing. And I like the way that you can see on the sides of the bamboo shoots that they're being silhouetted by the moonlight in the background. This one by NGO, or maybe Ngo, it has a really emotional look to it. So I can see that Arcanine's walking somewhere with its Growlithe, and in the sky you can see Braviary flying with its 2 Rufflet. And this illustration has a really good sense of depth, with how you can see the horizon just extending into the back. And also the texture that they used on, for example, Arcanine's fur and on the sky also gives it a sparkly kind of look. I noticed that all of the other Pokemon in this illustration are looking towards the left, but Arcanine's looking back towards the right like he's remembering something, or he's reminiscing. This illustration by Oliver Hamlin shows a really unique setting. I like the way Arcanine kind of looks like he might even be a ghost because his paws and his tail look like they're slightly translucent, and there's a whole bunch of like will-o-wisps around. And also I like the way that on Arcanine there's no actual like black lines anywhere on him, like he's all kind of gray. I like how each of those hills goes from like a grayish color and then to green, and then they have black on the top, because that provides a really good balance between the darkness and the fog in the setting. This illustration by Omats looks like it's telling a story. So I can see that Arcanine's carrying a stick that's on fire, and he has kind of an angry look on his face, and he's looking back at those Growlithe. And the Growlithe are laughing. It looks like a coastal area, like you can see that there's an ocean and it goes back. And those flowers on the cliffs look really cool too. It makes you think, like, what does that setting look like during the day? I really like the ripples and the reflections on the water in front of Arcanine. And probably my favorite part is up in the sky, how it looks like you can just see all the galaxies. This illustration by Ren is really cute. And the focusing effect is really great between the grass and ferns in the front and then the forest in the background. I really like the soft colors that were used, and the general lack of outlines. And it's cute to see Arcanine yawning too, because you don't see that very often. There's a lot of really great aspects about this illustration from Raw Straws. First of all, I really like the lens flare effect that they did, that's done really well. And I really like the usage of different colors across Arcanine's fur, because that adds to the dimension and texture, and it gives Arcanine a warmer look. And that Oddish looks like it's really snuggled up in there too, it's really cute. I like the way those flowers kind of outline the bottom part of Arcanine's body really well. And those clouds and the stars in the back are really great looking too. This illustration by Rio Haas is so lovely. I love how bright that they managed to make a nighttime scene look. I like the way that everything has like a pastel pink or green or blue, and it kind of makes Arcanine's white fur look kind of icy too. And it's really cute how the Growlithe in the back is whispering something to that Arcanine. It looks like it's a family of Arcanine and Growlithe too, because the Arcanine in the background looks like it has eyelashes like it's a girl. So it's probably the mom, and then the one in the front is the dad. And they got 3 kids. If I had to describe this illustration that Steven Ski Nasov drew of Arcanine, I would have to say that it looks like a dark Arcanine card, like back from Team Rocket. I mean, he looks mad. He looks like he's gonna start causing some chaos. I like the symmetry between the moon and Arcanine, and then between the grass on each side of Arcanine. I like Arcanine's claw just coming in like he's about to tear into something. And the shape of the fire coming out of Arcanine's mouth looks really cool. That's a really uniquely shaped fire. And I like the way the smoke is going into the curvature of the moon too. I like how Arcanine's so angry that he just smashed the ground and split the grass apart like Moses splitting the Red Sea. And this illustration by Zephyrin Gale, really cool name by the way, shows Arcanine having a really peaceful personality. He's just staring at his reflection in the river. He's dipping his paw into it, making little ripples. I love the usage of blue across Arcanine's white fur. That first of all makes it look like it's reflecting the water of the river onto Arcanine, and it just adds a really nice contrast in general. And those mountains and the clouds in the background look really great. They have a very oriental style to them which matches Arcanine. And also I like how the tree in the background looks kind of like a giant bonsai tree. And I like the way that the sky in the background has more of a tannish color that matches Arcanine's fur. This illustration, by Osami, it looks like some storm clouds are kind of forming, and Arcanine's running away so fast that he's just tearing up all the grass. That's a really good attention to detail. Next up, we've got an illustration by Aka Chiriko. I love how vivid and bright the colors are in this illustration, and those lines going through the sky have such a unique style that I don't think I've ever seen before. And I like how Arcanine just stomps and he's making little clouds when he stomps. The horizon has like a really nice curvature to it that looks really great. I really appreciate the happy look that this illustration by Ista has. Those Arcanine are just running together and having fun. I like how the sky up at the top doesn't really have a bluish color, but instead it has like a nice green color, and it gives the whole illustration like a calmer look to it. You can see that the trees in the background have like a slightly reddish glow because of the sunlight that you can't see in the illustration. I like the use of shading that they used under Arcanine's fur. So it goes from like white on the right side of Arcanine to like a grayish color on the back side of Arcanine. This art by Kinshi is really cute. So because Arcanine's a fire type, he doesn't generally like water, so it makes sense that he'd be hiding from the rain. I'm surprised that he was able to find a knothole big enough, and I like how the forest extends into the background on the right side, and that's drawn really well. And Arcanine just has a look on his face like, when will it end? I just want to go out. I like the really smug look on this Arcanine that Kosuki drew. I like how the area that Arcanine's in looks like a barren wasteland, and you can see ashes flying all over like the red and black specks. And also I like how especially down at the bottom right corner you can see motion blur, like Arcanine's just running past everything. And there's just a really good usage of motion and perspective in this illustration. This art piece by Sakika is so relaxing. I like the usage of really muted colors on the Arcanine, and Arcanine's sitting on some grass at the edge of a lake, and the lake's reflecting light from the sky above, and off in the distance you can see the mountains through the fog, and Arcanine's looking out over the lake and just reflecting on his life, it looks like. And I just like the really quiet look that this whole art piece has. This illustration by Niji Mark has a perspective that I would have never really thought of before. So it doesn't show Arcanine outright, it instead shows his reflection into a pool of water. And so what you're really staring at is just the reflection. And I love the usage of the blue on Arcanine's white fur. I like seeing Growlithe's little tongues like sticking into the water. And also I really like that dark shade of blue that they used for the water, which is also reflecting the sky and the sun above. And I like the way that the light green grass all around the image contrasts with the dark blue and the orange. I love how Arcanine in this Hitotoki illustration is howling up into the sky like he's a wolf. And he has a really powerful looking frame here too, like he looks like he has a lot of muscle in his body. He has big paws and big legs. It makes him look really strong. And I really like the coloration that they use for the sky too. I really enjoy how dynamic this illustration by Maki is. I like how all the lines in the trees point towards Arcanine. Like it draws your attention straight to Arcanine. And those colors are so vibrant too. And I like the way that the river curves down, meeting up with Arcanine's front paw. And those leaves flying all around have a really sharp look to it. The whole illustration looks really sharp. This artwork by Mashida is really endearing. I like how big Arcanine's yawn is, like he looks really tired. And I love all the strokes of his fur. They give him a really soft and fluffy look. And the clouds up at the top have a really soft and flowing look to them. Here's a really cute illustration by Ro. He's having fun playing in the snow and he's just shaking everything off of himself. Like just a little happy puppy. The shading on this whole illustration is done super well. And I like the way that instead of using black for the lines on Arcanine, they use like a dark blue to make it look like the color of the snow is like reflecting onto Arcanine. And I also like the way that they made Arcanine's snout kind of red, like he was sticking his face in the snow and now he's kind of cold. It's really cute, I love it. This illustration from Hidemaru Atsuda really looks like the original Pokemon card illustrations. It's got that really nice looking colored pencil style to it. And I like the way that Arcanine's fur looks like fire with the way that especially his back tail is like flaming up. And I like the way that the shadows on the trees in the background give everything kind of a spooky look. And Arcanine looks really intimidating too, like he's ready to fight whatever's posing a threat to Growlithe. And here's another Arcanine by the same artist in a different style. It looks like Arcanine's in a battle with a water-type Pokemon because you can see that there's like water coming at him like it's trying to attack him. And he looks like he's bracing for the impact. And I like the way that he's snarling with his teeth too, and you can see his gums. This artwork by Mary Inoue has a really interesting perspective. So if you look down at the bottom of the card, you can see Growlithe's paws reaching out, and the whole perspective of this image is from a Growlithe, like what it sees when it's chasing after Arcanine. I really like the etching effect that they did, where it has like just some subtle lines all across the image. Like especially you can see on Arcanine's foot, for example, and on his tail. And it adds like a really nice texture to everything. I also really like the usage of the white and the red on Arcanine. It has a really picturesque look to it. It's really cool how this illustration by Chiori Okawachi has the Arcanine blending into the background. And this definitely has a hand-painted look to it. And I like the really powerful and determined look on Arcanine's face. And in this artwork by Ryota Shina, I like the way that Arcanine's tail is wrapping around him like a cloud, and you can tell that he's standing on the top of a mountain, and he's about to roar. He's getting into the pose of roaring, and he looks really proud of himself for having climbed to the top. And I like the way that you can see the silhouettes of the mountains in the background and the clouds. It's really pretty. This next one's by Mina Manami Take, and I can tell that this one's really strongly inspired by the Pokemon anime, because Arcanine's always with Officer Jenny in the show. And you can see Officer Jenny sitting at her desk and she looks like she's stretching out. She's probably tired because it's nighttime. But Arcanine's really diligent and determined to stay awake. I like the red and orange outlines on Arcanine's fur because it like silhouettes the red light in the background. And I like how you can see the light from inside the station shining out onto the street and on Arcanine. And also I really like the slanted presentation of the image. It gives it a more dynamic look to it. This artwork by Shinosuke Yajima has an incredible amount of detail. Like, that is the most realistic fur that I've ever seen on Arcanine, or any Pokemon for that matter. Like, you can see practically every strand of fur just blowing in the wind. And I like how the streaks on Arcanine's fur complement the streaks on the mountains too. And I like the way that the coldness of the coloration and the setting contrast really nicely with Arcanine's fire typing. Alright guys, so that's it for part 1 of this series. So in the next part 2, we're going to be covering all of the winning artworks of Cramorant. I think it's really interesting how each artwork of Arcanine shows Arcanine in a different light. Some of them make Arcanine look really carefree and happy, and some of them make Arcanine look really angry. If you noticed anything about these different artworks that I didn't point out, be sure to leave a comment down below. There's so many details in all of these images that you probably wouldn't even notice unless you were staring at the artworks for a long time or if you had a certain perspective. I think it's interesting how, out of all of these winning artworks, even just of Arcanine, there's so many different styles, and it shows you that whatever style you have has potential, whether you draw realistically or more of a cartoony style. And I know for a fact that every artwork that was submitted, even out of the ones that didn't win, look amazing. They just had to choose just 300, unfortunately. So in the next video, part 2, we're going to be covering all of the winning artworks of Cramorant, so be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and see you then!